Good morning. Today we'll be talking about meta-inflammation, a new subject. Good morning, Dr. Fasanmade. It is a pleasure to have you and Dr. Kike here with me on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So, meta-inflammation, that's a big word. It's a very big word. What does it mean? I mean, it sounds really, dangerous if you ask me. So can you tell us what does meta-inflammation mean? And how does it differ from other kinds of inflammation?
Okay, so when you talk about meta-inflammation, it comes from two words. And the first one is metabolic, and the second part is inflammation. And it is showing how most of the chronic medical conditions do have an inflammatory background. So people that have conditions such as obesity, diabetes, hypertension, in the background, things that are driving the process are some form of inflammation that is generated by some cells in the body called macrophages. These macrophages release some chemicals that make the body start to change, especially in the areas of the blood vessel. And that is why conditions like hypertension, diabetes, obesity, they all have like a common root cause, which is stress, because stress is one of the factors that activates that inflammatory process. So that is what meta-inflammation is all about. It's low-grade, long-acting inflammation that occurs in many of these lifestyle diseases.
Okay, so for those who don't know what inflammation is, can you just say what is inflammation and what the different kinds of inflammation are so that we can distinguish between that and this one?
Okay, the usual things that lead to inflammation. Inflammation is just when a part of the body is irritable. For instance, if you have a bee sting, that area of your skin becomes red, becomes warm. Also, any other type of trauma, even an accident, will lead to inflammation, and injury will lead to inflammation. And then even infections can lead to inflammation. So whether it is a viral infection, a bacterial infection, or parasites, all of them lead to inflammation. That's why when a person has malaria, the parasites in the body cause the inflammation that makes the body respond by raising the temperature and then all the other things associated with inflammation, which is pain, discomfort. So these are the things that characterize inflammation.
So this one we're talking about now, this metabolic inflammation or meta-inflammation, is quite different. It's got quite a different cause. It's also sometimes referred to as silent inflammation. Why?
Yes, the reason why it is often referred to as a silent inflammation is that the other examples I gave of injuries, trauma, stings, all those ones, you can actually see what is causing it. You can identify the agent or the microbe or the injury that led to that inflammation. But in this silent or underground or background inflammation, many people don't even know it's going on. And that is where it is dangerous. And that's why the conditions I mentioned earlier, usually almost all of them are referred to as silent killers. People that have diabetes can fall dead without any notice. They can fall ill without you knowing they've had it for a long time. The same thing too, hypertension, obesity, high cholesterol. The people that have them, because the inflammation is taking place on a low grade, nobody notices it. There is no fever, there is no pain, there is no limitation of movement, so nobody knows anything is going wrong. Unlike the other ones that if you injure your toe, you immediately withdraw your foot and you start hopping because of the pain the injury brings out. But in this one, you don't have a way to localize it or a way to know what is causing it or to know what to withdraw to stop it.
Well, I mean, that sounds very worrying. So what you're saying, all of us could be having some element of meta-inflammation going on right now, and we wouldn't even know it.
You won't know. You won't know.
Oh, that's very distressing. So can you tell us, I mean, is this meta-inflammation, if it happens in you, is it reversible? Does it cause permanent damage? Is it something we can do something about? I mean, this is just so worrying. What really causes it?
Yes, there are many things that cause it. I just mentioned one earlier, which is stress. There are some other aspects, such as what we eat, because what we eat can have some small amounts of different toxins or poisons. So chemicals in our water, chemicals in our food. Sometimes the things inside our gut, the microbes, the type of microbes that we have in our gut, also can affect inflammation within the whole body. So there are several factors, but generally speaking, we tell people that if you live a healthy lifestyle, which involves exercise, involves the right diet, involves adequate sleep, good water, I mean, a good quantity of water daily, you keep on moving and you're not sedentary, you don't raise your stress levels by being involved in 10 things at once with a very short deadline. All those things help to reduce such inflammation, which almost everybody has some degree of. So lifestyle is very, very important.
Okay, so if I can then just ask, you mentioned an unhealthy diet. Um, can you give examples of such unhealthy diet? Or perhaps I could ask Kike to chime in here and tell us, because I know you specialize in wellness, and this is an area where we're sort of straying into the wrong path.
Mhm.
Kike.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Pamela, and great insights there, Dr. Fasanmade. Regarding inflammation, sometimes we think of it as something, very hidden, and sometimes it could be actually glaring. It's a protective mechanism that the body puts up to help prevent further inflammation. So it's like a vicious cycle and usually is triggered by an event. So on the nutrition side or wellness or lifestyle side, think of things like foods that are high in sugars, like Dr. Fasanmade mentioned, toxins in the food, in water. Some people don't know this, but sugar, which has become very different from what we knew back in the day, where we had just pure cane sugar. Now you have high fructose corn syrup. You have all sorts of things that have been included in sugar. They're called added sugars in much of the foods that we eat today, mostly packaged foods. And so those are things that essentially keeps the inflammation going. What makes
Can we call them? Can we just be frank and say sugar is a toxin?
It is indeed.
Let's just call a spade here. We're
Yeah.
saying, sugars, white sugars, all those sugars, they're all
Mhm.
toxins. And this is what we're talking about. A toxin
Yeah.
that Dr. Fasanmade was referring to that's triggering the reaction. Please carry on.
Absolutely. And you're right. Sugar is considered an addictive substance, more addictive than smoking. And that's what makes it even more dangerous because people think it's just sugar, right? And so breaking it down to, the common man on the street, you have your cup of tea and you load it with a lot of sugar or coffee, or let's say you're buying packaged foods, candies, cookies, packaged cakes, and things like that. Well, beyond just the actual sugar that sweetens the food, we're also looking at carbohydrates as well. High carbohydrates intake actually promotes and makes inflammation continuously increase. And so, many of the conditions Dr. Fasamadi mentioned, hypertension, diabetes, and even some autoimmune conditions are usually due to increased intake of carbohydrates with less protein, less healthy fats, omega-3s, and all of that. And so, in my opinion, I think inflammation, if controlled, is actually good and protective. However, there are certain things, like I mentioned, sugar, that makes it worse and continuously damage, cells and, the body. The other thing to consider is sleep. Sleep, I believe, is one of the most ignored aspects of health and wellness. Sleep is something that, is a protection to us as well, that helps us repair after a full day work or stress. When you sleep, your body actually decompresses and begins to repair itself. And so when you do not sleep, there are certain things that get triggered, and inflammation is one of those things as well. You feel for
So it's very important to have enough sleep. Very, very important to have enough sleep. So let me just go back to Dr. Fasanmade because we haven't finished talking about the issues. And one of the big issues you mentioned is diabetes. But I think you also spoke about obesity and insulin resistance. So can I ask Dr. Fasanmade, how does the meta-inflammation contribute to obesity and insulin resistance?
Okay, thank you. It's like a vicious cycle, actually, because usually what leads to obesity is an improper diet, or when you have excess calories that you don't burn. So it's a matter of like a person saving in an account. If you have too much calories and you are not physically active, you are going to have more and more stored. And when the fat is stored, usually you have some degree of inflammation that is generated by these fat cells, especially when they are located in unhealthy areas. And these unhealthy areas include in the abdomen, in the liver, around the organs. If you have excess fat around these organs, you are going to generate some chemicals from the fat cells in those areas. Again, when a person has too much fat or too much weight as a result of an improper diet, you find out that it now affects one of the other things that Dr. Kike Oduba said, and that is sleep. People who are obese steadily suffer a poorer quality of sleep because now they start to struggle as they snore. And as they snore, it means even when they think they are sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, in actual fact, they are just sleeping just about 1 or 2 because most of the time is spent starting, stopping, starting, stopping because of the snoring. So that's what is called obstructive sleep apnea when a person is snoring. So a person who snores has poor sleep quality. The other thing is that obesity is usually associated with wrong juices or through soft drinks or through candies or through added sugar in whatever it is they are eating. Some of them don't even know that what they are taking is wrong. So if you ask a typical person, do you take much sugar? He says no. But when you now do a dietary call, you find that he's taking a packet of juice, which contains a lot of sugar, a lot of fructose, and other things, even though sometimes the general public are misled because they may say no added sugar or natural. But this is highly concentrated. I mean, it's highly concentrated, and they add other things that may not be directly called sugar, but they are sweeteners, which also have their own problem. So when a person is saying no added sugar, sometimes all is just telling you that he's loaded it with something else, which is even more harmful than sugar.
So buyer beware, buyer beware.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just last Monday, interestingly, in our society, obesity is not considered a problem. In fact, obesity is considered a sign of good living. And people who are slim are considered to be suffering. And yet, this obesity, as you said, is causing, is a sign of actually things not going well within us and causing a problem, this issue of inflammation. So can you explain to us how this whole process leads to diabetes?
Yeah, thank you. So obesity is regarded as, I mean, in cultures like in Nigeria and quite a number of developing countries, is regarded as good at aesthetics. I mean, if you are obese, you have round cheeks, you have a big or protruding tummy, is associated with affluence, is associated with power. And some people actually associate it with their beauty. That's why in some parts of Nigeria, some women are even sent to the fattening room to fatten them up, to make them, in their own perception, more beautiful. So people do revere obesity, as opposed to Western countries where people actually want to be skinny, not even slim. They want to be skinny. The models are skinny. In Africa, probably because of our background, people associated underweight or very slim people with malnutrition, and then lack of care or deprivation. So I guess that's probably a carryover from that. But in countries where nutrition has been adequate, nobody needed to force feed their child or get them to put on weight to take care of the famine. So that's probably why in developing countries, obesity is taken as something positive. And that makes it quite difficult for the doctor to tell someone to lose weight, because as you're telling them to lose weight, their friends and family are asking them, why are you losing weight? Why are your clothes falling off? Why is your neck long? That's the way
You are looking haggard.
yes. It's partly cultural.
Yes. But it's a problem, and we
It
need
is
to
a
even
problem.
and apart from diabetes, apparently it's even associated with accelerated aging and age-related diseases. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Certainly, because the body has an ideal weight that has been set for each person, for each frame, for each gender. And when you exceed that, it's like a car that is overloaded. First of all, you're going to start putting pressure on your joints. You're going to start putting pressure on your heart. You're going to start having labored breathing, obstructive sleep apnea. You're going to start having skeletal problems, joint problems, and then obesity also promotes other conditions such as cancer and all the degenerative diseases ranging from hypertension, diabetes, other autoimmune diseases. A lot of conditions are associated with obesity. And that's why we always try as much as possible to get people to come to their ideal body weight, which the doctor will calculate for them.
And how about alcohol? What role does alcohol play?
Alcohol is a toxin because in nature, there is very, very little alcohol that exists. The body is able to detoxify alcohol, which of course maybe from fermenting of fruits and some other things that we have small quantities in nature. But when people actually brew the alcohol and drink the alcohol, then very often it becomes a general toxin because it now affects the heart, the brain, the liver, the nerves. So alcohol is not a good thing to indulge in. Before, we used to tell people that, well, just take a little red wine, and that was because of the antioxidants in them. But people have now gone overboard with that. And then you have people actually taking a little, and their own definition of little is different from the doctor's little. So you end up trying to get a few healthy things like some flavonoids and some other things like resveratrol from alcohol. But the ethanol itself ends up killing the person before any of the other healthier parts of the
Wow.
alcohol. So generally speaking, it's better to avoid and abstain from alcohol.
So what about antioxidants? You spoke about antioxidants, so let's talk about it right now.
Yes,
What role
and
does antioxidants play in
yeah, most of the things we do eat, as I said, they contain some toxins, they contain some small amounts of poisons. They could be from pollution, they could be from what is grown or from the soil. And the body has an efficient system of eliminating these chemicals through an antioxidant that the body does generate. And the way you can support the body in regenerating these antioxidants is taking things like vitamin C, vitamin E. These help the body to keep an active defense against these oxidative substances. And these substances that are oxidative, they are not only in food, even the sunshine, the ultraviolet light, many things that are in nature, all of them have a damaging effect, which go on to make us age if our antioxidant status is not updated. So where does diet and nutrition come here? A lot of the fruits, a lot of the leafy vegetables, a lot of the colored vegetables, they contain natural antioxidants that help the body to fight and defend against these poisons that we do take. And that's why we tell people to have at least 3 to 5 servings of vegetables or fruits in a day. But so these are some of the things about antioxidants, and I'm sure Dr. Kike too has something to say about that. It also relates to content.
Definitely. In fact, we have to call her in here because we don't have much time left. This is actually such an important subject. We're going to have to do a part 2 of it. But Dr. Kike, can you tell us about the role ultra-processed foods play in promoting chronic inflammation? And how can the foods, the rich foods, the good foods, reverse it? Is there a role for probiotics and prebiotic foods? Please, if you can just explain.
Absolutely. In short sentences, let me put it this way. So inflammation is a thing, which is inflammation that leads to aging, right? And this is something that occurs mostly because of the type of foods and toxins that go into the body. And so you talk about how the gut reacts to this type of foods. So essentially, the gut has over almost 80%, if not more, of the immune system residing in it. And so with that, it reacts pretty quickly to the types of food we eat. So when you offer the digestive system, which has a bulk of bacteria and microorganisms called the microbiome, right? They react pretty quickly to inflammation, either in making it better or making it worse. So foods like probiotics, you think of yogurt, kefir, even our common gari as a fermented food is considered a type of probiotic. And so eating fermented foods are actually quite good for the digestive system. Some of the things you want to also consider are the prebiotic foods, which are like green leafy vegetables. We're looking at, like our regular, I'm already thinking of broccoli and cauliflower, which I don't think are essentially very common in Nigeria, but the ones I can think of are like the regular herbs and vegetables, which they're not all coming to me right now, but that we eat in Nigeria.
Our F4 and
F4,
F4, shoko, ugu, all those, yeah.
Thank you so much. Those are very good. Having a colorful plate, I think essentially your tomatoes, your bell peppers, think of, even fruits, right? Fruits like pineapple are actually good. There are also other things that we call superfoods, thinking of garlic, curcumin, turmeric, things like cinnamon. Adding those as spices into your food actually help improve your gut health. They kind of reduce the triggers and the reaction your body has as inflammation to the kinds of foods we're eating. So I believe food is medicine. We are what we eat, essentially, and being intentional about how we eat and what we eat, I think, is the key to reducing chronic inflammation and, of course, metabolic inflammation as well.
I know. Thank you so much. I know we've actually run out of time, but it's just, we have to do this meta-inflammation. That's all I can say. We don't have. Can you just give us a few words, last words for our listeners? Dr. Kike, before I go to Dr. Fasanmade, few last words for our listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to contribute. One other thing that we tend to ignore is hydration. A lot of people believe that if they're taking fruit juices or tea or, alcohol is hydration. You need actual water to help detoxify and flush out a lot of the toxins we've discussed today, including sugar. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Like I said, hopefully we can further the conversation and go deeper into the nutrition and the lifestyle aspects of inflammation.
Thank you. Dr. Fasanmade, your last words, please.
Those last words are eat healthy, exercise well, have a good night rest, drink a lot of water, and then maintain a healthy weight. And then you will push the doctor far away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for new video updates.